Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We are diving deep into the world of financial regulations today.
Ooh,
Yeah,
excitement.
right. It's going to be a good one, I promise. We're going to look at what's changing, what it means for you, and like why you should even care about any of this.
That's right. It can sound a little dry sometimes, but it really does affect everyone.
Absolutely. And we're basing this deep dive on like this big document outlining what the regulatory landscape is going to look like in 2025.
Yeah.
And it has some pretty eye-opening stuff, let's say, about consumer protection.
It really does. I was surprised by some of the things they're focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, we all know regulations can be a little, well, boring, to be honest, but this is really about how
Really?
companies are interacting with you, the listener, from like how they market products to how they handle your data. It's like super relevant.
Absolutely. And we're seeing a major shift toward, I guess, holding companies accountable for like literally every step of your experience. So like from the moment you even hear about a product to, your ongoing interactions with them as a customer.
I love that. So it's not just about like slapping a warning label on something. It's about the whole shebang.
The whole shebang, exactly.
And the document actually summarizes this as, quote, say what you do what you say, end quote. And I feel like that's such a simple phrase, but it has so much weight.
Right. So, like, it's not enough to just have, policies in place. Companies have to show they're actually following those policies at every single point in the process.
I love that. So can you maybe unpack that a little bit more? Like, what does that actually look like in practice? Because, for the listeners, like, okay, what does this really mean for me?
Yeah, totally. Let's say you're, I don't know, thinking about trying out a new banking app. Right. So, regulators are going to be looking at whether that app actually delivers on all those promises it makes in its ads. Are the fees, like, clearly explained upfront during, the sign-up process? Does customer service live up to what they're advertising? It's really about making sure there's like a consistent and transparent experience for you as the consumer.
So no surprises down the line.
Exactly. What you see is what you get.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that ties into another major theme in the document, which is this whole idea of transparency.
Yes. Huge. Yeah.
It feels like regulators are going to be like laser focused on making sure that you're getting clear, accurate, and most importantly, consistent information no matter where you're encountering a company.
Yeah. Consistency is key.
But I mean, companies are like everywhere these days.
Oh, yeah. They're omni-channel, multi-platform, all the buzzwords.
Exactly. They have
Yeah.
websites, social media. They might even have like physical branches. So how can they possibly keep their messaging perfectly consistent across all those different platforms? It just doesn't seem possible, does it?
It's a real challenge for sure. And that's where, technology might play a surprisingly big role. So, like, regulators could actually be using AI and data analysis to kind of scan for any discrepancies in those messages. Imagine like an AI flagging an ad that's specifically targeted at you based on your browsing history because it's misleading.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the level of scrutiny we're talking about here.
It sounds a bit big brothery, but also like kind of necessary, right?
It's a fine line, but yeah, definitely necessary. We're dealing with so much information these days. You need those tools to keep track of it all.
For sure. And okay, so beyond just like catching those inconsistencies, the document also talks a lot about actually preventing harm to consumers. So what are like some examples of what they mean by that?
Well, one big one is fairness. Are products and services offered on the same terms to everybody, or like are certain groups being, disadvantaged?
Right.
Another one is fulfillment. Like, does the product or service actually work as advertised? And, this is especially important when we're talking about like AI-powered systems
Yeah.
because their capabilities need to be accurately represented. No more, inflated claims or anything like that.
Right. So you're saying like if a bank is advertising some like super fancy AI powered financial advisor, it better be able to do more than just tell you to like save more money.
Well, right. Right, exactly. Like it needs to actually deliver on its promises and provide real, tangible value.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just about like the functionality either. It's also about, things like disclosures. Are fees clearly explained? Are endorsements or like logos being used appropriately? It's all about making sure that, as the consumer, you're getting the full picture. You're not being misled in any way.
Oh man, that makes me think about all those times I've like blindly clicked agree to terms and conditions without even reading them.
Don't worry, we've all been there.
Maybe I should be a little more careful.
Yeah, reading the fine print is always a good idea.
Mm.
But, this whole push for transparency is really designed to make it easier for you to actually understand what you're agreeing to in the first place. So, like, you should be able to see clear explanations of fees, right there on your bank statements, or have standardized labels on financial products that, like, help you compare them more easily.
That'd be so nice.
Yeah, it would make things so much easier for everyone.
Now, the document also had a whole section on consumer reporting. So that's the information that's used for things like credit reports, debt collection, stuff like that. Why is that such a big focus?
Because, well, errors in those systems can have some really, like, huge consequences. Imagine being denied a loan just because there's, like, a mistake in your credit report that you didn't even know about.
That's scary.
Right. And it's a real concern for a lot of people.
Yeah, I could see why.
So that's why regulators are really stressing the importance of having clear processes for consumers to, correct any errors. Like, companies have an obligation to investigate those errors promptly and to be, constantly improving their systems to prevent things like fraud and identity theft.
So it's not just about protecting companies, it's about protecting us regular people too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we had to like sum it all up, would you say it's basically more accountability for companies, more transparency across the board, and more proactive measures to like actually protect consumers from harm?
I think that's a great summary.
It feels like kind of a big shift though, doesn't it?
It definitely is. And it'll be really interesting to see how it all plays out in practice over the next few years. Will companies actually step up and make those changes? Will consumers really benefit?
Yeah, time will tell.
Exactly.
So I think the key takeaway here for our listeners is like stay informed. Be aware of these changes because it's more important now than ever to, ask questions, make sure you really understand and feel confident in the financial products and services that you're using. If something doesn't feel right or seems off,
Hmm.
like don't be afraid to dig a little deeper and, advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive today. It's been enlightening, to say the least.
It has. Thanks for having me.
And to everyone listening, we'll definitely keep you updated as these changes, kind of unfold in the coming year. So stay tuned. Thanks again.